The fluorescent light above her buzzed faintly, a low, almost mocking sound that echoed through the otherwise silent apartment. Kendra Miles sat on the edge of a worn-out couch, knees tucked to her chest, staring at the eviction notice that had been slid under her door that morning. The letters were bold and red, the kind of color that screamed urgency and humiliation all at once. 30 days behind on rent. Utilities cut off 2 weeks ago. Internet disconnected just yesterday. Her fridge hummed emptily, holding nothing but a half-empty bottle of mustard and a bruised apple. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was judgmental. She hadn't told Lucas yet, or maybe she hadn't had the chance. He'd stopped coming around much ever since she got laid off from the tech startup 3 months ago. Budget cuts, they said. Downsizing. Restructuring. All buzzwords that meant one thing: you're dispensable. Kendra wasn't just another pretty face in tech. She had ideas, brilliant ones. But she had no resources, no family support, and no degree from some Ivy League school to soften her fall. She had her drive, or at least she used to. The knock on the door was sharp and impatient. Kendra? Lucas's voice pierced the silence. She froze. Her heart fluttered for a moment with hope, stupid, stubborn hope, but it was quickly crushed by the weight of reality. She opened the door. He didn't even look her in the eyes. "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. He walked past her, scanning the place like it was a crime scene. "It's cold in here," he muttered. "You haven't paid the bills again?" She said nothing. Her arms crossed involuntarily, more out of defense than warmth. Lucas turned to face her, and for the first time in weeks, he actually looked at her. But there was no concern in his eyes, just irritation. "This isn't working," he said flatly. She blinked. "What? You're not the same. You're drowning, and I can't drown with you." "You said you believed in me," she whispered. "I believed in your potential. But potential doesn't pay the bills, Kendra. I'm tired of waiting for you to get your act together. I've been offered a job, real job, at Stratline Ventures. It's through Sabrina. You remember her?" She did. Sabrina Vale, the daughter of a tech mogul. Beautiful, rich, and everything Kendra wasn't. "I'm moving in with her," he added, as if it were a line in a script he'd rehearsed. The world tilted sideways. "You're leaving me?" Her voice cracked. "Now, when I have nothing?" He shrugged. "You've always been strong. You'll bounce back. You're just not my responsibility anymore." With that, he turned and walked out, leaving the door open behind him. Rain came down in thick sheets as Kendra dragged a duffel bag down 3 flights of stairs. She had nowhere to go. The roommate she once had moved out 6 weeks ago, and her name was the only one on the lease. Her bank account had $8.63 in it. She didn't cry, not immediately. The tears came later, in bursts, as she huddled under the eaves of the city library for shelter. Her clothes clung to her like regret. Her phone buzzed once, an email from a job application she barely remembered submitting. "Thank you for your interest. At this time, we've decided to pursue other candidates." Of course they had. An elderly woman passed her, paused, and then backtracked. "You okay, dear?" Kendra looked up. The woman's face was kind, her eyes creased with age and understanding. "I'm fine," Kendra lied. The woman frowned. "Come inside before you catch your death. You can sit in the reading lounge until they close." Too exhausted to resist, Kendra followed. Inside, the library smelled of old books and warm paper. It was almost comforting. Kendra sat by a computer terminal, staring blankly at the login screen. She had no resume to update, no cover letters to polish. She was tired of pretending to be okay for people who didn't care. The same woman from earlier returned a few minutes later with a cup of vending machine tea. "I'm Joan," she offered. "Kendra." Joan sat beside her, looking at the flickering screen. "Have you ever entered the Harmon Tech Innovation Pitch?" she asked suddenly. Kendra furrowed her brow. "The what?" "It's a local contest, sponsored by Harmon Tech. They're asking for design ideas, prototypes that solve real problems. My nephew entered last year, won $5,000 and an internship." Kendra let out a soft, bitter laugh. I don't even have a working laptop. Joan reached into her oversized purse and pulled out a battered but functional-looking tablet. Then use mine. I trust you. That trust, so freely given, almost broke her. Kendra stared at the tablet. Her mind, dulled by despair, began to flicker back to life. Ideas she'd scribbled on napkins and notebooks months ago began resurfacing. One in particular haunted her, a wearable exoglove for patients with motor function loss, powered by microservos and responsive AI. She'd begun designing it for her father before he passed. I don't have time, Kendra muttered. You've got 2 days, Joan said gently. That's plenty if it means something to you. Chapter. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of borrowed chargers, library computers, and vending machine dinners. Kendra poured herself into every detail of the pitch. She didn't even think of Lucas or the eviction or the hunger twisting in her stomach. For the first time in months, she felt like she was someone again. Not the broken girlfriend of someone ambitious, but a builder, a visionary, a survivor. She named the prototype Relive, a wearable device that helps stroke survivors regain grip strength. She included sketches, mock-ups, and detailed functionality. Finally, just before midnight on the second day, she sat back in her chair, fingers trembling over the touchpad. The submission portal blinked, ready to send. She stared at the screen for a long time. If this is rock bottom, she whispered to no one, then maybe there's nowhere to go but up. The dormitory smelled like bleach and burned toast. Kendra clicked. Kendra lay flat on a twin-size mattress, the springs pressing into her spine as she stared at the cracked ceiling of room 3B at Eastside Transitional Housing. It wasn't much, just a bed, a desk, and a shared bathroom down the hall, but it was hers, for now. Rent was subsidized, the meals were basic, and every resident had a curfew. But it gave her one priceless thing, space to think. And she needed that more than anything. Her tablet, now fully hers thanks to Joan's quiet insistence, sat glowing on the desk. She had spent the last 2 weeks refining the Relive design for Harmon Tech's Innovation Pitch semifinals. The email that arrived 2 days ago still sat pinned in her inbox. Congratulations, Kendra Miles. You've advanced to the top 50. Your prototype idea has demonstrated both innovation and social value. Please prepare to present your proposal live at the Civic Tech Forum in 2 weeks. Her hands trembled when she read it the first time. She didn't scream, didn't cry. She just stood still, feeling something unfamiliar rise inside her. Momentum. She worked through the nights in the shared study lounge, her fingers tapped across the cracked keyboard of a loaned-out library laptop. Power outlets were limited, so she arrived early and stayed late. Her diet consisted of vending machine peanuts, dollar store granola bars, and occasionally cup noodles. Not even cooked, just crunched raw, sprinkled with seasoning like childhood again. Sleep came in 2-hour doses. Her dreams were crowded with mechanical sketches and silent voices from her past. Lucas scoffing, Sabrina's laugh, her dad's encouragement before he passed. She wrote code, sketched enhancements, taught herself rudimentary Key-ID modeling. Each line she drew, each hour she lost, became a quiet act of rebellion against everyone who said she couldn't. The Civic Tech Forum was held in an old downtown event center, its paint peeling in places, but still proudly hosting thinkers, dreamers, and more than a few polished venture capitalists looking to scout talent before the big leagues noticed. Kendra arrived in thrift store slacks and a blazer borrowed from Joan's retired wardrobe. It was a bit too large, the shoulder seams hanging low, but she wore it with the quiet grace of someone who no longer cared about appearances. The room buzzed with nervous energy, tables with mock-ups, digital screens showing pitch decks. Business cards flew like confetti. She stayed near the back, clutching her battered tablet, reading over her slides one last time. That's when she saw Sabrina Vale, in designer heels and a maroon blazer that probably cost more than Kendra's monthly food budget, stood near the espresso bar, sipping casually while speaking to a crowd of young tech hopefuls. Kendra didn't move, but Sabrina noticed her. Their eyes met, Sabrina's smile curled, sharp and amused. She excused herself from her group and walked straight toward her, heels clicking like a countdown. Kendra? Sabrina's voice was syrupy sweet, the kind that makes your skin itch. Oh my God, I almost didn't recognize you without the tears and the broken space heater. Kendra said nothing. Her grip on the tablet tightened. You're here for the pitch? Sabrina glanced at the old tablet. That's adorable. I'm here for the same reason you are, Kendra said evenly. Oh, sweetie, Sabrina leaned in. People like me look for investments. People like you look for leftover pastries. The group Sabrina had been with earlier began to glance over. Someone stifled a laugh. Kendra swallowed the rising heat in her chest. She didn't flinch, didn't blink. Instead, she tilted her head. I hope your investors believe in you as much as you believe in yourself. It was the only thing she said before turning away. Her presentation was slotted third from the end. Most people were already tired, the judges half distracted, but she didn't care. When she walked onto the stage and plugged in her tablet, she didn't see the panel. She saw her father's trembling hands in the hospital bed, the way he used to fumble with utensils. The memory sharpened her voice. She spoke of ReLive, a lightweight, AI-integrated glove designed to aid stroke survivors and individuals with neuromuscular disorders. She broke down the haptic sensors, the servo assist feedback loop, the minimal cost, no theatrics, no marketing fluff, just function, heart, and quiet fire. When the demo video ended, the applause was light but genuine. She stepped off stage, not expecting much. That's when she noticed the man in the brown sweater. He had sat in the back the whole time, taking no notes, asking no questions. His face was forgettable, but his eyes weren't. They followed her with a rare intensity, not judgment, not pity, something else. Calculation, maybe. He didn't approach her that day, didn't hand her a card. He simply nodded once, then vanished into the crowd. Later that night, as Kendra nibbled on half a stale croissant from the complimentary buffet, her inbox pinged. Subject: Finalists announced. Harmon Innovation Pitch. She opened the email with one eye closed, bracing for the usual. But this time... Congratulations, Kendra Miles. You are one of our 5 finalists selected to receive a development microgrant, mentorship, and access to prototyping labs. Your idea has stood out not only for its technical viability, but for its purpose. She stared at the screen for a full minute. Then she laughed. A real, belly-deep laugh she hadn't heard from herself in months. The kind of laugh that startled a woman in the hallway outside her dorm room. She had done it. No Lucas, no Sabrina, no fancy suits or expensive degrees. Just her, just grit. The following week was a blur of change. She was assigned a shared cubicle at Harmon Tech's innovation space. Not glamorous, but it had real tools. 3D printers, soldering equipment, embedded software labs. She worked beside engineers, designers, and a handful of other finalists. Some ignored her, some underestimated her. A few tried to recruit her to their projects. She said no to all of it. Kendra had her eye on something bigger, something permanent, and she had time. Joan visited once, bringing sandwiches and a hug. She said nothing but handed Kendra an old keychain with the words, "Build quiet, shock loud." That became Kendra's mantra. 3 days before the final pitch event, Kendra returned to the Civic Center for a prep workshop. She kept her head down, focused. But Sabrina was there again, this time with Lucas at her side. Kendra froze. Lucas looked older, maybe even tired. His tie was crooked. His eyes met hers briefly, and she watched recognition flicker, and then embarrassment. He looked away first. Sabrina smirked and whispered something to him. He didn't laugh. They didn't approach her. Not this time. Kendra didn't need to speak. Her presence alone was now a statement. She left the event early. Back at her cubicle, she stared at her nearly finished prototype, fingers tracing the glove's outline. This wasn't just for a prize anymore, or a grant, or even for survival. This was about becoming undeniable. The next morning, as the sun rose over the city skyline, casting golden streaks across the lab windows, Kendra watched her prototype come to life. The fingers of the exoglove moved in gentle synchronicity, mimicking her commands with precision and grace. It worked. It actually worked. A technician nearby, watching quietly, whispered, "That's beautiful." Kendra smiled. Inside, something shifted permanently. She whispered to herself, "I don't want revenge. I want legacy. But if revenge comes with it, I won't say no." 4 years passed, not in a blur, but in a blaze. What began as a micro grant and a small, half-equipped workshop grew into a phenomenon. Kendra Miles, who once slept in a transitional dorm and ate uncooked ramen, now stood quietly behind one of the most innovative biotech companies in the country, Neurotech. She didn't make splashy headlines. She didn't do interviews, didn't attend galas, didn't pose on tech magazine covers like other founders. While others chased the limelight, Kendra chased results. And results, quiet, groundbreaking results, made more noise than any spotlight ever could. By the end of year 2, Relive had received FDA fast-track approval as a medical device. Clinics in 3 states adopted it for outpatient therapy programs. By year 3, Neurotech expanded into adaptive limb technology and neuromotor rehabilitation, partnering with several hospitals and 2 international universities. Investors came knocking. Kendra only answered the right ones. She didn't live extravagantly. Her apartment, top floor of a refurbished warehouse, was modern, open, and mostly filled with prototypes and whiteboards. No unnecessary decor, no grand furniture, just clean space to think. Her closet was half filled with functional clothing, slacks, button-downs, black sneakers. She wore no jewelry except for a small metal pendant shaped like a circuit, a gift from Joan, who still called every Sunday like clockwork. Her morning routine never changed. Wake up at 5 o'clock a.m., run 2 miles, read industry reports, eat oatmeal and black coffee. Begin work. She did not allow chaos anymore. She had lived in it long enough. People began to whisper, "Who's the woman behind Neurotech? Why hasn't she gone public? Is Kendra Miles even real?" Kendra didn't care. Let them wonder. In truth, she had grown to value her anonymity. Power felt better when it was silent, when it walked into rooms unnoticed, only to be revealed at the exact moment it mattered most. Besides, there was still a piece of her, some fragile shard, that hadn't forgotten how it felt to be laughed at, to be left behind, to be told she was nothing but a burden. She didn't want to prove them wrong with her words. She wanted to prove them wrong with her empire. It was during the 3rd quarter of Neurotech's expansion into human-machine neural interfaces that her chief of operations, Lynn, entered her office holding a digital tablet. "We've started reviewing candidates for the open product strategist role. 36 applicants so far. I shortlisted 10. Kendra nodded, eyes on her dual monitor screen. "I trust your judgment. There's one name I wanted to flag personally." Kendra looked up. Lynn handed her the tablet. Kendra glanced at the name, then froze. Lucas Grant, age 34, former product coordinator at Stratline Ventures, laid off after a department merge, 2 short-term contracts at minor firms, seeking a return to purpose-driven innovation. She stared at the photo, same sharp jawline, same smug, polished expression, but his eyes, they were different now, tired, less sure of themselves. It took her a moment to register Lynn's voice again. "You know him?" Kendra's face didn't flinch. "We used to cross paths," she said simply. Lynn nodded. "His qualifications aren't terrible, but nothing remarkable. Honestly, the only reason he made the 10 was because of some past connection with Harmontech. I can remove him if you prefer." Kendra considered this. "No," she said softly. "Let's schedule him for an interview." Lynn raised an eyebrow. "You want to sit in?" Kendra clicked her screen off, turned her chair fully to face her. "I'll conduct it." That night, Kendra didn't sleep early. She poured herself a glass of white wine, not because she needed it, but because some moments required ceremony. She sat on her balcony, overlooking the river that cut through the city like a vein pulsing with ambition. Lucas Grant. Of all the names, of all the resumes, he had come here. To her, not knowing. The man who once told her she was holding him back. Who had packed up his life and his morality to move in with Sabrina Vale. The same Sabrina who Kendra later learned had tried and failed to launch her own startup after being ousted from her father's board. The two of them had bounced between networking events and seed rounds, never quite landing. Karma didn't always arrive on schedule, but it always found its address. The next day, Kendra asked Lynn to forward the candidate's full resume and cover letter. She read every word carefully. In his letter, Lucas spoke of longing to build something meaningful, of seeking environments that value innovation and purpose. He referenced past mistakes, vague admissions. Nowhere did he mention her. Nowhere did he realize whose desk his words would land on. She stared at the document for a long time, not because she needed to, but because the universe had just handed her something she never asked for, an opportunity, wrapped in poetic irony. She thought of deleting the file. She thought of never responding. But then she imagined his face when he saw her, when he realized that the woman he had left for dead weight was now the one who would decide his future. And that was worth something. Not vengeance, not exactly, just balance. That's him. The interview was set for Friday at 2:00 p.m. Kendra had the room rearranged. Just 2 chairs, a glass table, no corporate banners or digital logos. She wore a soft gray pantsuit, no makeup, hair tied back, clean, unassuming, calm. At 1:58 p.m. she sat down, one leg crossed over the other, hands folded in her lap. At 2:01 p.m., Lucas entered. He didn't recognize her at first. He smiled, automated, practiced. "Hi, I'm Lucas Grant. Then he paused. His eyes narrowed, and recognition dawned. Kendra didn't move. "Please," she said softly, gesturing to the chair across from her. "Have a seat." He sat slowly, like his body no longer trusted the ground beneath it. "You look different," he said cautiously. "I am." Silence stretched between them. Kendra leaned forward slightly. "Why don't you walk me through your experience in product strategy?" Lucas blinked. "You want to do this professionally?" "I am a professional," she replied. "Aren't you?" He hesitated, then launched into his rehearsed pitch. Kendra listened politely, occasionally asking precise, cutting questions that forced him to admit he hadn't led any launches in years, hadn't shipped a product end to end, hadn't built anything of real impact. By the end of 20 minutes, he was visibly sweating. She closed her folder slowly. "One last question," she said. He nodded, too quickly. "How do you define loyalty?" He blinked. I suppose standing by someone. Through success and failure, and when it's inconvenient?" He swallowed. "That's when it matters most." She nodded slowly, then stood. He stood too, their eyes locked. She didn't smile, didn't gloat. She only said, "Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch." Lucas hesitated. "Kendra," but she was already walking away. Back in her office, she sat at her desk alone, staring out the window. She didn't feel joy, or bitterness, or rage, only quiet closure. She looked down at Lucas's resume again, then whispered, "Funny how the man who said I was a burden now wants me to carry his future." The glass walls of the interview room reflected the city's afternoon sunlight, casting sharp lines across the floor like a grid, tight, precise, unavoidable. Lucas sat in one of the 2 chairs, his posture just stiff enough to betray the tension hidden behind his forced calm. Kendra watched him. She hadn't planned to feel anything, not anger, not satisfaction, certainly not pity. But watching him now, small in a chair across from her, surrounded by the company he didn't know she built from the ground up, she realized she didn't need revenge. This was enough. This was justice, served at room temperature. He cleared his throat, trying to meet her gaze. I wasn't sure if it was really you when I saw the name on the invite, but I hoped. You didn't recognize my voice last time? He gave a sheepish smile. It's been a long time. 4 years, she replied evenly. He nodded. Yeah. There was a pause. Lucas was the first to speak again. Kendra, I know this is awkward. I mean, beyond awkward. I was surprised to even be called in for this. I didn't know you were behind Neurotech. Honestly, I had no idea. I figured, she said. You wouldn't have applied otherwise. That stung. He winced. She opened a folder slowly and looked down at the notes she'd already memorized. Your resume shows some inconsistent timelines, a few short stints at smaller firms. Gaps. What happened? He straightened. Startups. You know how unstable they can be. Do I? His mouth opened slightly, then shut. She let the silence breathe before continuing. I see you haven't launched any products in the last 3 years. Your last significant contribution was a UI overhaul at Stratline Ventures. Before the merger, yes. After that, it was hard to find the right environment, one that values collaboration over ego. Ah, collaboration over ego, Kendra repeated, her voice steady as steel. Important. He leaned in slightly. Kendra, listen. I know I wasn't exactly the best version of myself when we were together. I was young, selfish. I made choices I regret. She raised an eyebrow. This isn't about us, Lucas. This is a job interview. He looked slightly embarrassed. Right, of course. It's just, I've changed. I've really worked on myself. That's why I'm applying here. Neurotech stands for something. Her fingers tapped the arm of her chair once, measured, thoughtful. You believe in the mission? Absolutely. The work you're doing, what this company is doing, it's brilliant. Human-centered, compassionate innovation. It's what tech should be. She tilted her head. And if you weren't sitting across from me right now, if someone else were leading this interview, would you still be saying that? He swallowed. Yes. I think I would. You think? I would, he insisted. There was a beat of silence again. Kendra set the folder down. What would you say to someone who abandoned their partner during the lowest point of their life? Lucas blinked. I'd say they were a coward, someone afraid of discomfort, of struggle. And if that person came back later, looking for opportunity from the very one they left? He looked down. Then I'd say, maybe they realized too late what they lost. She didn't reply, just studied him. He looked older now. Not just physically, but in the way shame had carved itself into his movements. He was still trying to play it cool, still hoping charm could cover the cracks. But the cracks had become caverns. The interview continued. Kendra pushed him on technical knowledge, product strategy, ethical design, team dynamics. He answered as best he could, but he was no longer the confident, rising star she remembered. He was desperate, and for the first time, honest. I'm not proud of who I was, he said near the end, but I'm trying, really. I've made mistakes, big ones, and I won't pretend I deserve a second chance, but I would be grateful for one. She folded her hands. You said I was holding you back, she said softly. You said I was dead weight. His face turned pale. I know I was wrong. No, she replied, you were right. I was at my lowest. But you walked away. You didn't wait to see what came next. I couldn't see it back then. And now? Now. Lucas exhaled. Now I see everything. Everything I threw away. Silence fell once more. Then Kendra stood. That will be all. He stood too, unsure whether to offer a handshake. He didn't. 3 days later, Lucas received an email. Subject, Position Update, Neurotech. He opened it with trembling hands, unsure what to expect. Dear Lucas Grant, thank you for taking the time to interview with us at Neurotech. We'd like to offer you a position within our Product Innovation Program. The role will be part of our 6-month unpaid internship track, with evaluation for advancement upon completion. We believe in potential. But at Neuratech, potential must be proven. Welcome aboard, Kendra Miles, CEO. There was a handwritten note attached in the PDF version. Let's see if you've really changed. Lucas sat still for a long time. Then slowly he typed, I accept. His first day began at 6 a.m. There was no corner office, no welcome packet, no staff member to guide him. Instead, a young intern handed him a Neuratech t-shirt, a building access badge with no photo, and pointed him toward a shared workspace labeled Level C, Workspace 11B. The room had no windows. The desks were modular, shared by 3 other interns, all younger than him, all dressed casually, all staring at him like he didn't belong. He didn't. But he sat down anyway. The tasks came via email, reviewing UX flows for a new project, logging prototype data, filling out redundant QA reports. He did it all, quietly, methodically, without complaint. Nobody knew his history with the CEO, nobody cared. He was just another name on the roster, entry-level, unpaid, disposable. And for now, that was his penance. Elsewhere in the building, on the top floor behind biometric glass doors, Kendra stood watching the sunrise from her office. She sipped her coffee, black, no sugar, and listened to the hum of Neuratech waking up beneath her feet. She didn't smile, she didn't gloat. But there was peace in her chest, not because Lucas was beneath her now, but because she had risen without him, and because now, finally, he would understand. Abandoning someone at their worst didn't make you strong. It only guaranteed you wouldn't be there for their best. 6 weeks into his unpaid internship, Lucas stopped hoping for special treatment. He was assigned the worst hours, the dullest tasks. Nobody made eye contact when they passed him in the hallway. No one offered lunch invites or Slack channels labeled just for fun. He sat quietly in his corner of the shared workspace, reviewing repetitive UX reports, compiling QA logs, and updating spreadsheets he didn't understand the purpose of. And yet, he kept showing up. Every morning at 6 a.m., he arrived in his simple polo shirt and badge with the red intern label printed across it like a scarlet letter. He did the work. He stayed late, he listened, he asked questions when he didn't know something, he didn't complain, not once. And eventually, after week 7, people began to nod when he passed them. One of the younger interns even asked for his opinion on a presentation. He gave it, thoughtfully, without ego. Maybe, just maybe, he was changing. Then Sabrina returned. It was during the final week of the quarter, just before Neuratech's annual summit and demo day, the event where Kendra would, for the first time ever, step onto a stage and speak publicly on behalf of the company she built. Sabrina's entrance was as theatrical as always. A PR agency representative called ahead, announcing that Ms. Vale would be visiting to discuss a potential strategic branding partnership. Kendra had the agency forwarded to Lynn, her COO, who was briefed and silently more than ready. Sabrina walked into Neuratech's headquarters as if she owned it. Heels sharp, smile polished, makeup flawless. She didn't recognize the woman who met her in the conference room at first. Lynn was soft-spoken but unshakable. Ms. Vale, Lynn said evenly, we appreciate your interest in working with Neuratech, but just to clarify, CEO Kendra Miles will be joining us for this meeting. Oh? Sabrina tilted her head. I thought she was more elusive. She's chosen this meeting. Sabrina's smile faltered. Just a little. Kendra entered the room wearing a black structured blazer, sleek trousers, and a calm, unreadable expression. She extended her hand. Ms. Vale. Sabrina hesitated. You look different. I am, Kendra replied. Shall we begin? The next 20 minutes passed like an autopsy. Sabrina pitched her marketing firm's vision, branding, public relations, exposure. She used buzzwords like synergy and disruption. She referenced her previous work, her network, her reach. Kendra listened in complete silence. When Sabrina finished, Kendra placed her hands flat on the table. "I remember the last time we spoke," she said quietly. "You mocked me. At a conference, called my ideas adorable." Sabrina's eyes widened slightly. "That was 4 years ago. We were young, you were cruel. I was competitive, you were dismissive, entitled, and loud." Kendra stood. "I've built Neurotech without branding stunts. Without press tours, without you." Sabrina opened her mouth, but no sound came. Kendra didn't wait for her to find one. "This company does not need your voice," she said with finality. "We have our own. Thank you for your time." The day of the Neurotech Summit arrived with spring air and an electric buzz. Hundreds gathered: investors, partners, medical professionals, press. It was held in a minimalist space with high ceilings, white light, and Neurotech's core values glowing softly on massive screens. Dignity, innovation, purpose. Kendra sat backstage, her hands calm in her lap, eyes closed. She wasn't nervous, not anymore. She had built a company from broken pieces, from hunger, from humiliation. She had nothing left to fear. At the far back of the event space, standing without a name badge, was Lucas. He wasn't on the guest list. But one of the event staff, an intern, had invited him quietly. "You should hear her speak," they said. "She's different." And so he came. He stood in the shadows, alone, watching the woman he once walked away from step onto the stage beneath a single spotlight. The room hushed. Kendra took the mic. "I was once told I was a burden," she began. A ripple moved through the crowd. "I was told I was holding someone back, that my dreams were cute, naive, that I wouldn't make it without someone stronger pulling me forward." She paused. "I believed them for a while." Silence. Then I stopped. I started believing in systems instead, in science, in people who had been told the same thing I had, that they were too weak, too slow, too broken. The lights behind her shifted, revealing images of Relive, of patients using the exo glove, smiling, moving their hands. That's why I built this. Not for revenge, not for applause, but to prove one thing. Her voice steadied. "Survival isn't about being saved, it's about saving yourself." The audience erupted. Lucas clapped too, though his hands trembled. After the event, he waited, not near the green room, not near the cameras, just in the courtyard, beneath the quiet evening sky. Kendra stepped out nearly an hour later, finally alone, her heels softer now against the stone. He approached her slowly. She saw him, stopped walking, and waited. "I didn't come to ask for anything," Lucas said softly. "I just needed to say something, for real this time." She said nothing. "I was a coward. I chose comfort. I walked away from something I didn't deserve in the first place." Still, she remained silent. "I didn't know what you were capable of, but I should have. And I'm not asking for a job or forgiveness, just to say I'm sorry." Kendra studied him. His voice held no performance this time. Just quiet truth. She took a breath. "I forgive you." His head lifted slightly. Hope flickered. "But that doesn't mean we start over," she added. "It means I don't carry you with me anymore." He nodded, slowly, gratefully. "Thank you," he whispered. She turned to walk away. But before she did, she looked back once. "Don't waste it, Lucas. Not everyone gets to look someone in the eye and own their failure." He stood there long after she disappeared into the night. Cha-chama. Weeks later, a small news article appeared in a niche tech journal. Neurotech CEO breaks silence, then disappears again. After her viral summit speech, Kendra Miles has once again stepped away from public view. A source close to the company says, "She didn't build this to be seen, she built it to last." And in an office deep within the Neurotech campus, Lucas continued to work. He never asked for more. He never brought up the past again. He earned his seat, quietly. Kendra kept building, not for them, for herself, for those like her. And when people asked her, what was the